Yes, Madiba. There are 20 teams in the group stage that advance to the knockout rounds. They'll be streamed on Peacock, Fubo, and something called Golazo, unless you're in a specific market with a blackout restriction, in which case you can find a pirate stream on Reddit under R Springbok Rugby. It was fucking, we get it. It's a tournament. You beat teams until you get to the championship.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you like to hang out with us live, like 10 people are doing right now, you can follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel. And there we play video games, we host watch parties, we edit this podcast live, and sometimes, like right now, we record this podcast live. And we are joined right now in the chat with the commissioner, Champagne Chris. So if he has any commentary, this is the first for us, I think. If he has any commentary on the podcast, we can see it in real time. No pressure. No pressure.
I'm feeling the pressure.
All right. Now, all that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
So, Gene, you've already alluded to a couple big moments tonight. We are recording this live, so that's something new. If you get a chance, watch the video, see what it looks like behind the scenes. Also, we are doing our latest film ever, 2009. And this is for one of our great supporters and listeners, Chris D., who did a special support of one of your charities, something that you believe in, and he donated generously. So we thought we would do something special, and he asked us to go all the way to 2009 and do the Biosport pick, directed by Clint Eastwood, and it was the 2009 Invictus.
And just to be clear here, this was no quid pro quo. This is a genuine thank you to Chris for helping out with the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride with a very generous contribution. That's to help with men's health, men's mental health, suicide prevention. So every year, if you see a bunch of guys in May and gals, gentle people, gentle folk, on their motorcycles, dressed up with mustaches and suits and stuff, riding around their motorcycles, it's for a good cause. And Chris was, and so then when I found out that Chris is a rugby aficionado and player, I said, for sure, would it be cool with you, Chris, if we did a rugby movie? And I gave him a list, a very short list, and he came back with Invictus. Oh, we've got another great commissioner here in the pod, in the chat, which is Scott. From Friendswood, he's checking in as well. He's got a couple coming up very, very soon, including Wildcats, which we're going to be recording this weekend. So Chris wrote in and said, "Hey guys, thanks for offering to review Invictus for your live cast. I am honored. To say the 1995 World Cup match was an important game might be the greatest understatement in the history of sports. The socio-political importance of the game can't be understated, nor can the black-white divide in South Africa between rugby haters, or more correctly, Springbok haters, and Springbok lovers. This divide was exploited by a number of nations, including New Zealand, to get SA Rugby banned from international play due to apartheid, only fueling the animosity between the supporters of the two teams. it was also artfully used by Nelson Mandela to unite the country in a common cause. The anticipation for this movie within the rugby community was tremendous. Teams were booking entire theaters for opening night watch parties and wasn't going to wait a day longer than necessary to watch it. While it wasn't the boon to rugby recruitment we all hoped it would be, I think it does a decent job showing the struggles both the team and Mandela had at that time. All in all, I think they tell a solid story and give enough rugby to tell the story, but not enough to understand much of the game. 2.5 stars. P.S. I can't talk about the game without mentioning that I was driving to college for a last summer class needed to graduate the day of the game, since at that time there was no way to watch it without a big satellite dish. I stopped in D.C. to one of the few rugby purveyors while they were making VHS copies of the game for sale. The guy there was so enthusiastic about the game when I asked who won, he just handed me a tape and said, "Watch it. I don't want to spoil it." A moment of rugby camaraderie I'll never forget. And that comes from Chris D. Looks like we lost Big D for a second, so I'm going to go look for him.
Because I can't see anyone in the chat.
Sorry, you can't see anyone in the chat?
No, so the chat disappeared, you disappeared, then it came back up.
Okay, so you're looking good now.
Okay, good.
All right. But
Okay,
anyway,
cool.
we got Scott in there. Now we have our Castro as well saying it's Lee from Sneakers Commissioners here.
Okay.
Love the stash, Gene. Thank you very much. And also Aaron B40 is in the chat. So thank you guys so much, all you first-time chatters, for joining us. So Chris D's story, if you missed any part of that, Big D, was that he was driving, didn't get to watch the match itself, and the dude that sold him the VHS tape of it, I'm assuming sold to him, was kind enough to not spoil it for him. That is a bro.
I'm wondering more. Could it be possible? Could New Zealand really have pushed to get them banned? Not because of apartheid and whether it was right or wrong, but because they wanted them out of like pool play.
I mean, I don't know the rugby community. That kind of shithousery would happen in soccer for sure.
That'd be fucking dirty.
Anyway.
I don't blame them for hating them.
All right.
Fucking dirty.
Well, Invictus is a 2009 sports movie directed by Clint Eastwood, starring Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon, making it the third collaboration between Eastwood and Freeman after Unforgiven in 1992 and $1 Million Baby in 2004. The story is based on a 2008 John Carlin book about the events in South Africa before and during the 1995 Rugby World Cup. The title refers to the Roman divine epithet Invictus and may be translated from the Latin as undefeated or unconquered. The film was met with positive critical reviews and earned Academy Award nominations for Morgan Freeman for Best Actor, Matt Damon for Best Supporting Actor. The film grossed $122 million on a budget of $60 million. So, Big D, in 2009, I'll admit it, I was not terribly interested in Morgan Freeman. I wasn't terribly interested in Matt Damon. I wasn't super interested in apartheid or rugby. So Invictus never popped up on my radar. It was only when I discovered that Chris was a rugby player that I had to make a short list of rugby movies. And all I came up with was Alive and Invictus. And he quickly chose Invictus.
Well, I mean, if you think 2007, Morgan Freeman did Gone Baby Gone, then he did The Dark Knight in 2008. So he was big. But I think you're right. This movie fell into that weird niche. It came out in winter, and it was one of those that was Oscar bait. And it checked all the boxes. It had big name actors. You had a physical transformation. You had Matt Damon get beefy. He looked good. He looked young. He looked like the role he was playing. You have a historical figure. It's a biopic, and they're going to tackle a big theme. It could be like a war. It could be racism, apartheid. And that could be the only reason that I would have thought to see it. And then Eastwood directed it. But I just never considered it. I don't know why. And 2010 was an odd year. Back in the day, 2008 and before, they only had 5 films that were up for Best Picture. And then they widened it to 10. This was the first year. And I tried to always see at least the films that were for Best Picture. But the other films, this was a bizarre year. Normally, Oscar bait, you get those typical films. But this year had some very strange ones. You had The Hurt Locker. Again, it's a war film, understood. Avatar, you had the big blockbuster in there. District 9, the small budget sci-fi film, again, about apartheid in Johannesburg. Inglourious Bastards. You had a violent retelling with Brad Pitt. You had a star-studded cast. You had an animated film, Up. You had The Blind Side, which was up for it, Up in the Air, and then Precious. So this was one of those years that I saw a majority of the other, and I did not see this until many years later. I don't remember when, but this is the first time I can remember sitting through the entire thing and not seeing it in pieces.
Now, normally here is where we insert the trailer, but because we're a live audience, you get to see what happens on the actual pod when we hit the trailer. So, Big D, let's hit the trailer.
I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Today, President Mandela takes office in Pretoria, balancing black aspirations with white fears.
Remember this day, boys. This is a day our country went to the dogs.
Brothers, sisters, this is the time to build our nation. All of the whites are cheering for South Africa. All of the blacks are cheering for England. How long before the World Cup?
Don't get your hopes up. We're a damn disgrace.
I've been invited to tea.
With who?
The president.
Tell me, Francois, how do we inspire ourselves to greatness when nothing less will do? How do we inspire everyone around us?
What did he want?
I think he wants us to win the World Cup.
This rugby is a political calculation.
It is a human calculation.
According to the experts, we'll reach the quarterfinals and no further.
According to the experts, you and I should still be in jail.
Times change. And we need to change as well. We become more than just a rugby team.
Did you ever imagine this?
How could I?
Do you hear? Listen to your country. This is it. This is our destiny.
I was thinking about how you spent 30 years in a tiny cell and come out ready to forgive the people who put you there.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
4 years after being released from 27 years in prison, Nelson Mandela is elected the first black president of South Africa. He must deal with rampant poverty, crime, and divisions between black and white South Africans, even in his own administration and his security detail.
So Morgan Freeman, we've discussed him, iconic, his voice, his performances. You got him in Batman. You got him in Shawshank Redemption. He's done so many movies that we have loved. There can't be anybody else you're going to cast as Nelson Mandela. He is the only actor who can do it. He's got like this dignity. He's never had anything bad said about him as a man or an actor. His voice is soothing. There is a confidence and a command. You just pay attention. When you hear him, it's like a loved one, like grandpa's talking to you. He is the perfect actor. He played God in Bruce Almighty. He is perfect for this role. And the way I used to say that I judged a role, it's like, say Brad Pitt is playing a character. And halfway through the movie, I forget that, hey, that's Brad Pitt. I say, that's a good acting role. Halfway through this movie, I couldn't picture what Nelson Mandela looked like. I could only see Morgan Freeman in all the speeches, his physical appearance, the way he moved, the way that he spoke. It was a perfect casting.
Well, there's a reason why you couldn't picture Nelson Mandela anymore. You can only see Morgan Freeman. It's because they inserted him into the fucking footage, which I found very strange and off-putting. Like, listen, we know what Nelson Mandela looks like. We know Morgan Freeman is not him. You don't have to Forrest Gumpify this shit. That was like a bridge too far. That was Clint Eastwood taking some liberties. Chris noted that Nelson Mandela wanted Morgan Freeman to play him, so that definitely helps if you have the endorsement of the guy you're playing.
Yeah, it's perfect. And you know that there was a goof. In the UN scene, on one of the background screens, they accidentally left in the original Mandela.
What I got to wonder is there not a single South African actor in all the actors in South Africa that has the voice of God a grandfatherly sort of, vibe to him. Why Morgan Freeman? That's what threw me off, is that Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon, for that matter, these are Americans.
Because this is an American Hollywood film. This is Clint Eastwood. You think he was like searching in Johannesburg for some unknown, undiscovered actor who could play this iconic role? Who happened to be 70
in South Africa.
And he's got to be 70 years old.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I think we have a little problem at that point. But no, he's perfect. But as the character goes, and you're going back to a time now, this is 1990s, early. I know the World Cup is 95.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to think back in the day how exposed politicians were. Famous people just out in the street. We talk about like Abraham Lincoln just going to a play with the missus and no bodyguards. I couldn't have every scene, because I feel bad. I don't know my history that well. I don't know if there was attempts on his life. I don't know if anything bad ever happened. So every time he's out there, I'm like, oh, fuck, something's going to happen. I'm worried all the time. And he brings in his new guards, right? I understand you're bringing them in, but don't turn your back on the experienced other guys simply because the color of their skin, right? They've got a history of protecting world leaders. Regardless of the race, I want those guys in there.
I mean, this.
Do you think
this would be like the equivalent of like if Joe Biden gets elected in the White House and Trump's leaving, and he's like, hey, we're gonna put you in the hands of the Proud Boys.
No, not at all. These dudes were stand-up dudes. They stayed behind. They said, we want to stay on. We respect the transition of power. And the old team rolls it. And I'm worried about his new guys because they seem to be like, get the sniffer dogs. I'm like, sniffer dogs? What are you talking about? Where the old guys are talking about tactics. They've done 20 years protecting a world leader. These guys are coming in. Who lets him walk out in the streets alone at night when they have that issue where the car comes driving up on him? I'm thinking it's a drive-by. Nope, it's just the newspapers. You throw him out there. He goes off script. There's a lot of situations that he's in unnecessarily a dangerous situation. It's almost as if they were trying to set him up to get killed or at least put him in a situation where something could happen.
Definitely South African ninjas could have gotten to him.
Oh, easily.
Easy. Ninjas?
Easy.
Right in there. I think the point is to show that Mandela knew the things he had to do to connect with the people. And those things also happened to involve putting himself at risk, right? It was like the situation where you can't hide from the people because then you'll never get the faith, the confidence and the faith of the people. You can't show fear and all that. And at the same time, in order to expose yourself in that way, I mean, I think all politicians have to go through that right now. And it's like a notion that goes all the way back to like Jesus, That's why I always wonder about the Pope mobile. Like, why does that have bulletproof glass? You're the Pope.
But I think what works is the security you don't see. Most of the layers of security are invisible. You don't need it. You could protect him with some skilled guys.
Yeah.
Did you replace the doctor just because you wanted a new doctor?
Could he go for a walk inside your compound?
Get a treadmill. Get a rowing machine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this does still happen today, by the way. I'm always surprised when I'm out and I run into politicians without bodyguards or security details. I mean, Big D, I don't want to reveal your line of work, but I'm sure that you just run into people sometimes where you're like, holy shit, it's so-and-so. I run into Adrian Fontes on the regular at tailgates. He's the Secretary of State, Arizona. Tailgates, I run into him at soccer matches. No security detail. No bodyguards. He's not packing heat. He's just out there. Anybody get to him at any time. Blows my mind. I would be hiding in like my bunker.
Yeah.
Well, while attending a game between South Africa's Springboks rugby team and England, Mandela recognizes that some black people in the stadium are cheering for England. Knowing that South Africa is set to host the 1995 Rugby World Cup in 1 year's time, Mandela persuades a meeting of the newly black-dominated South African Sports Committee to support the Springboks. He then meets with the captain of the Springboks rugby team, Francois Pienaar, played by Matt Damon, and implies that a Springboks victory in the World Cup will unite and inspire the nation.
So he's already immediately coming in, and he's set up with all kinds of serious problems. The economy, crime, trying to get people to unite the country after so many years of apartheid and segregation. And he astutely hones in on something that can bring them together, and it's sports. It is the one thing that people will come together of diverse backgrounds, political beliefs, race, economics. It doesn't matter. You can get together, and it's a smart move for him to put such an importance. It is one of his aides says, "You really want to waste some of your political bullets on this?" And he says, "Yes, I do. It's important because it's part of the national identity. If we do away with this, we are just feeding into their fears." And I remember back in September 11th when we had the attack, Ground Zero.
I remember, yeah.
New York was a mess. They stopped all sports. And the question was, when is it okay to go back to normal life? And the MLB said that we are part of the healing.
Yeah.
So they ran out, and I think it was like 3 or 4 days later, President Bush came down and talking about being at risk. His ass walked out onto that pitching mound, Yankee Stadium. He didn't go halfway. He threw a strike. They started playing ball again, and it was a big thing. I'm old enough to remember the first Gulf War, Whitney Houston singing the national anthem with the Giants and the Bills. It was a big moment, and the nation could come together. It heals, it binds. Sometimes it's a bit, artificial. I think now in the South, where I am, that it unites people. Sports, the Southern college football fans, they will cheer for a player that they probably wouldn't invite in their home. But as a country, it was smart to see the value in bringing the Springboks together and keeping them with their old green and gold.
Totally agree with this. Sports are so important. And, I spent a part of my life being, among the anti-sports crowd. I played high school football. I played basketball. And then I kind of got out of sports for a while. And I was like, it's just it's a bunch of big, beefy bros beating on each other. And what's the point? But the fact is we need something to lift our spirits. And sports is really good at that. And I get annoyed now by the sports ball crowd, right? When the Super Bowl is on, or when there's a championship game going on, the World Cup, whatever it happens to be, and people who will put it down because, what are they going to do? Move the ball from here to over there? Like, that's the point of the game. Like, it's really, I hope somebody wins. It discounts the fact that sports it's a social lubricant. It's a backdrop for other activities. I mean, Scott and Friends with Texas, who's in the chat, sending me clips of tailgates, right? Tailgates in themselves, it's a reason to get together. It's a reason to party, even if you don't necessarily care about the game. But if you do care about the game, it matters even more. You're getting each other hyped up together. You're going to the game. For all the reasons a person would read a book, watch a movie, watch a play, right? That's all in sports. There's narrative. There's drama, right? There's characters. I mean, absolute characters. And as we've been playing a lot of fantasy baseball, I'm learning a lot more about that. There's hope. There's devastation. It is terrific entertainment, sports is. And like you said, yes, often it drives people apart. I think all Spurs fans are shit. But at the same time, it brings people together.
I mean, we talk about from the shows we used to do. It used to be the water cooler. You need something to talk with your friends or your coworkers that you have in common. We are increasingly segregated and kept away from each other, isolated in our normal lives. You need something to talk about. Think about the Olympics. At what other point in the year or the years do I give a shit about gymnastics or figure skating? Never. But come time, people will be like, oh, man, did you see Kerrigan? Oof. Triple Lutz. Ooh, that was a great move. People act like they're into it. The World Cup. For the indoctrinated, AO fans or fans of Premier League or Arsenal, it's a big thing. It's a big thing. And rugby, I knew very little about it, other than these guys are crazy. They're gigantic. They tackle each other. I almost was embarrassed to be an American football fan. Protected under all that gear, these dudes are just blasting each other. I don't know how any of their knees are intact. People are playing with bloody cut cheeks, eyes, gouges. It's pretty violent. So I don't think I can accurately or be a fair judge about the authenticity of the rugby scenes. But as a non-fan, I think it's smart. This is this film for an American audience. They don't try to teach us too much. There's no voiceovers talking about the rules or the history. The camera is down ground level. You see big beefy dudes just hitting each other, snot flying. It's slow. It's fast. We don't see the high, like elevated level where we can see the strategy about what's going on. And it's good. But there's points where they're playing like France in the rain. I can't tell what's going on. I know I don't know the rules, but at least tell me, are we winning? Are we losing? What's the score? It's just like fast clips of rain, guys grunting, ball on the ground, people cheering, Nelson like looking nervous. And it just kept going back and forth. And they wasted some of the tension, especially towards the end of the movie. Give us at least an announcer voiceover. Like, the South Africans sure are in a pickle here. Like it's back in the 20s. What are we going to do? If they get another touchdown here, that could put them up for good. I don't know. It's going back and forth. There's no tension. I needed to know what the stakes were. There's a penalty at the end. I don't know what that means. Everybody seems concerned, except for me.
I mean, we're not talking like Jugger amount of confusion here. We do get kind of what's going on here. But I agree, Big D. So I really started watching rugby in earnest when I was in Paris during the Rugby World Cup. I happened to be there, and the matches were on TV at pretty much all the bars. And so sometimes I would fall in with one crew and fall in with another crew. Didn't really have like any skin in the game, but it was fun to watch and have the game explained to me and get a better understanding of how it works. But what I learned from that kind of led me to understand why the film was shot the way it was. And I agree that a little bit more like audio might have helped out. But the fact is that rugby's like notoriously difficult to film. And they talked to Matt Damon about it because his scenes, if you watch him on the footage of the game, he doesn't get a whole lot of time doing anything really interesting with the ball. He might catch the ball, he might throw the ball, but he's never getting like really hit real hard or doing anything crazy, like any stunts like that. And the reason why is because rugby is fluid. It's unlike, let's say, a football movie. Football movies are so easy to shoot because you can run a route. You can it is choreographed in and of itself, right? And so a guy can run, you can catch him, you see him catching the ball or being handed the ball, and he runs through, and these guys know don't hit him, and then he just busts through, right? But that's not going to be believable in a rugby environment. It's much more chaotic. And then you get into why are baseball movies so popular? Basketball movies, right? Again, it's a similar thing, is that you can really plan out what's going to happen in the scene. But Matt Damon said he spent a lot of time actually hanging out with Clint Eastwood, who had like the little monitor, and watching the rugby scenes being filmed and being like, wow, that looks really painful. Probably sipping his tea and enjoying the action.
But I'm not talking about the scenes. The scenes were great. I just wanted to know context. This isn't like the Hill Valley like karate tournament. That's not what this is. It's just tell me, hey, it's a close game. We're coming down to the final minutes. Ooh, this is a big kick. Oh, this is a big defensive stand. Give me context, because when they beat in the rain, I think it's France, I fucking didn't even know it was tied. I didn't know they were winning or losing. It's just over, and our guys are cheering. I'm like, wow, okay, I guess we won.
Well, as Francois and his teammates train, things begin to change. The players interact with fans of all races and begin a friendship with them. During the opening game, support for the Springboks begins to grow among the black population. And by the second game, the whole country comes together to support the Springboks and Mandela's efforts. Mandela's security team also grows closer as the racially diverse officers come to respect their comrades' professionalism and dedication. Now, Big D, you mentioned previously how Nelson Mandela's aide is talking to him about using his political capital in support of rugby. And it's an example among many of how this movie is fabulously melodramatic. So many lines in this movie are delivered in curiously emotional ways. And it's not that the movie's badly scripted. Like, the things that people are saying make sense, but the actors seem to really be overdoing it in so many ways. In that scene, Mandela's staffer, Brenda, she's talking about his political capital, and she says, at least risk it for something more important than rugby.
Yes.
Why? Why did she say it that way? She could also say, at least risk it for something more important than rugby. And that's just as effective, if not more effective. In another scene, Morgan Freeman himself, he's getting the rundown on South Africa's path to the Rugby World Cup. They've got like charts for him, like it's the war room or something. And he says, so we must beat Australia. And then the camera just stays on him like he's like thinking real hard. Nelson Mandela, president of South Africa, right? Very intelligent man. He's thinking very hard about the fact that we must beat Australia.
Yeah, he's verbalizing his thoughts. And Mandela's a politician. He's used to kissing babies and trying to spin everything. But my problem is they make him sound like a walking, talking Hallmark motivational card. He says shit like, I don't want to do like the voice here.
Yeah, you have to.
He's like, forgiveness, I'm going to end up doing it like I'm a ninja from our next movie. But he's like, forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. And that is such a powerful weapon. It's crazy. The guard asks him a simple question. Hey, how's your family? Does Mandela just like let it go off and say, hey, my family's good? No, he immediately stops and looks. My family is 42 million. I will not walk today. And turns around and walks away. Everything is like a speech writer, had written it for him. It's a bit much. And I understand it's an inspirational movie, but he could have just had some regular down to earth conversations. Like, hey, how's your family? Oh, they're good. Not everything needed to be a motivational moment to have people be like, he's not a god. He's a man with man problems. We get that.
Wouldn't it be fucking wild though if he was actually like that? Oh, what if this dude? That's just what he does.
Oh, it'd be insufferable. You'd be like, what do you want for lunch, Mandela? The hunger in my belly is nothing compared to the 30 years of suffering that I did for our country. I cannot think of food until we are united. Nobody talks like that.
I mean, the movie definitely does not feel modern, even though it's a 2009. It feels very much like a 90s educational film, and Invictus really took me back to 1990, but not in a good way. I don't know, Big D, if this was your era in school because we're a few years apart, but people in the chat, I'm sure you guys experienced this. So there were those days when the teacher would go to the AV lab. He would leave the room, they go to the AV lab, and then they would get the VHS cart. Oh, and it was like the cart had a VCR on it and then like a CRT TV on top of it. Mm-hmm. They'd roll it in. Did you have that?
Of course.
It was like a fucking 36-inch screen for like an entire classroom. They'd turn off the lights and then they would put on the video. And the movie would always be something like Invictus. It would be sanitized. It would be emotional. There would be an inspirational note to it, some sort of a cautionary tale, and it was invariably prone to being overly educational. And Invictus, it's trying to teach us about rugby, which admittedly is a mystery to most Americans, not us, and not Chris, and not our Castro, but everybody else doesn't know about rugby. And it also tries to explain how the World Cup works. Now, even if you don't know about rugby, I think we all know how tournaments work. But no, they have to have the guy. Yes, Madiba, there are 20 teams in the group stage that advance to the knockout rounds. They'll be streamed on Peacock, Fubo, and something called Golazo, unless you're in a specific market with the blackout restriction, in which case you can find a pirate stream on Reddit under R Springbok Rugby. It was fucking, we get it. It's a tournament. You beat teams until you get to the championship.
Well, no,
what
but
fuck?
You're trying to build drama. You're trying to build that the expectation was they would make, I think, the quarterfinal. People don't know what that is. So that way, at least we can follow it step by step by step to see, oh, they're going further than we expected. Oh, they're doing much better. Who is the next opponent? It's trying to get us to build up, But a better question here, we talked before and we complained about biopics. We did La Bamba, where we were talking that Richie Valens' family was involved in the writing, the production. So it was a cleaned up version where Richie was flawless. He was a good dude. He was perfect. He didn't have any issues. He immediately rose to success. His death was sudden. The brothers' problems even were brushed under the rug. So here, again, Mandela, it's a positive film about him. There's very little things he does wrong, but we get some little hints to where I'm like, where's his wife? I don't remember where his wife was. So I start looking. I'm like, was he a player? Because they hint a couple times that Mandela might have been slinging the D. I don't know. But I went back. He was married in 58. He had 2 daughters. One of the daughters, Zanaya, who like he does the old conversation about the bracelet where he's like, give this to your mother. And she's like, well, maybe she left it there because she wants it thrown away. That was Winnie. That was the wife.
Okay.
So he was jailed in 63. He got released in 90. 2 years later, they separated. And then the divorce was final in 96. They give a few hints. The whole bracelet thing. He is smooth with the women. He's got the one woman on the dance floor. And he's like, you're a beautiful woman. She's like, oh, stop it, Madiba. And he's like, oh, come here. He's like, my father was a polygamist. I have one wife, but I wish I was like my father. Was there some subtext here about Mandela, like doing more?
I'm pretty sure he ended up with Brenda, which they didn't really address. So the lady that was like with him in the don't use all your political capital on rugby. That lady, I'm pretty sure he ended up with. But the 90 to 92 thing, I'm willing to forgive because I got to tell you, if you come out of prison after 27 years, like you're gonna marry the first fucking woman you meet, and then maybe realize 2 years later, maybe that wasn't right, or otherwise, maybe the stress of running for the presidency might have led to that as well. But I mean, listen, this is a larger than life character who, over the course of a very long life, had 3 marriages. I don't think that's that extreme. Was he slinging the D? Of course he was, man. He's so smooth.
He's got, you said 3 marriages? I thought there was 2 or 3, regardless.
Yeah, he spent 3 eventually.
He spent 30 years in prison. So let's just say we knock off 30% of his life. No, he didn't live to 90. So let's just say it was even more than that. Right. He didn't have an option in prison. So maybe, that's why he came out and he decided, just thankfully he didn't end up with a white woman. That could have caused problems in South Africa.
Well, I think, I think this speaks again to the fact that he's not a saint, Big D. And you, after your reaction to, as you mentioned, La Bamba, after your reaction to that thing you do, I think that you would be yearning for more dirty. You want to see like a Mandela sex scene.
Strangely, I didn't in this. I don't know why.
Strangely.
And it got me, okay? Because, Eastwood, he's a bit sappy in some of his stuff. I think he did Bridges of Madison County. He's got this weird thing. The first half, to me, it was going. I was getting the feels. I was getting a little emotional in some of these scenes. And then it was as if Eastwood was a little nervous. So he took the music and he's like, I got to really hammer this home. People might be missing it. Mandela, he's inspirational. The story is inspirational. He's reuniting a country. He's showing the effect of apartheid. He's showing systematic racism. The movie's going to pull on our heartstrings. And they have a score which does it. When the players go into that area, like in Soweto, I think, where the kids are there, and the first time these players are being exposed to poverty and the living conditions, and you get just a score over the top. It's emotional. It made me think of the first time in Rio that I saw the favelas and see true poverty. Anybody who's only lived in the U.S. and never traveled, you don't know what poverty is. When you see it, it will change you. And the score does it. It's sufficient. It's in the background. But then it hits the second half of the movie, and it's almost as if like Eastwood's thinking, I need to like lock down that Academy Award. This is where I can do it. And he forces this song, Colorblind. It is so on the nose, and the lyrics, it completely took me out of the moment, right? He's going to visit the team. They're practicing right before, and the song Colorblind comes on, and the lyrics are, and it's not just a game. You can't throw me away. I put all I had on the line, and I give it what it takes. And I play for high stakes. I won and I lost, but I'm fine. Hear me saying I'll rise up to the end. Hear me saying I'll stand up for my friend, and I crash to the ground. And it's just my squad. And I drop in the blink of an eye. I'm colorblind. Come on.
At one point in the song, it talks about 9,000 days. And I was like, is that 27 years? It's not. It's 24 years.
Could have been.
So thankfully there's that. But yeah, it's so bad. And I was like so pissed off. I'm like, fucking Coldplay? It's not Coldplay. It's another band called Overtone that sounds a lot like Coldplay.
No, you don't need to spell out exactly the plot of the movie. That's what lesser movies from the 80s do.
Unless it's a martial arts movie, then you should.
Oh, then you need
Always.
it. Then it's, yes,
Tell me
100%.
exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
As Mandela watches, the Springboks defeat one of their arch rivals, Australia, the defending champions known as the Wallabies, in their opening match. They continue to defy all expectations and defeat France in heavy rain, Big D, to advance to the final against their other arch rival, New Zealand. One day during the tournament, the Springbok team visit Robben Island, where Mandela spent the first 18 of his 27 years in jail. There, Francois is inspired by Mandela's will and his idea of self-mastery in the poem Invictus. Francois mentions his amazement that Mandela could spend 30 years in a tiny cell and come out ready to forgive the people who put him there. So, this part of the movie, I figure we're going to get like a Top Gun moment, right? Everyone's at the bar, they're having beers. Woo! You know, the babes are there.
Yeah.
Rugby drinks, which I imagine are fantastic. I imagine ruggers fucking drink like a lot. And they're all partying, and then they're like, whoa, everybody. Word starts spreading around. 6 a.m. tomorrow, coaches run. And we're like, oh, shit, like, they got to get serious about the game now. But then they realize they don't know where they're running. They get like a location. And we find out that they're surprising the team, and they end up at a boat, like marina, like a dock. And there's a boat there. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, they're going to take them all out for a day with their wives and their girlfriends. Look, fishing maybe, or like splashing around, or just enjoying like, the coast or whatever. No. They take them to Robben Island prison. Congratulations on your World Cup win. Here's a prison tour. Bring your wife in some swim trunks and a poem.
Well, he's trying to motivate the guys. He's new to this, and I liked it because in the Army, that was how good leaders acted. You could go out and drink until 4 a.m. as long as you made the morning run. If you made the run, no problem. You could puke. You could fucking piss yourself. But as long as you made the run, you were good. There was no problem. So here, guys make the run, and they come back. And I just couldn't believe in that prison scene. They're literally breaking rocks, like Looney Tunes style. This is like shit Bugs and Daffy get into, like where they're actually in the middle with a little chain breaking rocks. I would not be so forgiving as Mandela was ever after 27 years. But Gene, I got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
This is the 90s. You think today about how training has advanced and how nutrition and specialized training. This is the 90s. Why are these dudes doing everything in those god-awful, like polyester cotton collared shirts? Lifting weights, collared shirts. Practicing rugby, collared shirts.
Okay.
Eating, collared shirts. They're wearing these things that are like, it's like working out in a pair of jeans.
Yeah. So Chris will probably be able to answer this better than I can, but I've got a hunch here. Okay. So one of the things a lot of people don't understand in the US about other countries and sports leagues, first of all, it's like Arsenal. Okay. So Arsenal went at the beginning of the season, they're going to release 3 kits usually. You're going to have your home kit, you're going to have your away kit, and you have what's called third kit. It's different every year.
Translate kit, please.
We have an American your jersey, audience. Your shorts, your socks, your ensemble. That's your kit. Okay, you'll have 3 of them generally per season. Then they might even release like a 4th kit at some point during the season. And then if you qualify for like other leagues, like Champions League, then you might have your Champions League kit as well, right? So there's that factor. Sometimes they have lapels, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're really colorful, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're classic, sometimes they're very like aggressively futuristic, whatever. That's one. But the second thing is that they see a very specific line in this movie. They say that soccer is a gentleman's game played by hooligans.
Okay, gotcha.
And that rugby is a hooligan's game played by gentlemen. And I believe that a gentleman would not be playing a game without a collar. Chris says it is a classic rugby jersey, and if you're playing in the rain, it adds about 10 pounds. So you're right, Big D. It's like playing in jeans.
Okay, that makes complete sense. I will accept that. And the movie, it's going to be like a feel-good, inspirational ending. We're heading there. So as the movie's going along, I'm counting up the moments where either Mandela's making a decision, Francois is going to make a change, and I'm thinking, okay, all of these things are going to pay off at the end, and we're going to get some big moments where we go, you see all those little seeds you planted, they grew into something beautiful. And I'm expecting that the movie's going to be way more heavy-handed after we get colorblind. I'm expecting possibly the worst. I'm expecting that the growth that Francois does is going to pay off in like dramatic ways that I'm thinking the God Bless Africa, the song where he says, learn it if you want. I'm expecting when they're all out there in the middle on the finale and they're singing it, that we're going to get like shots of the Black South Africans bars. And they're all going to be like, look, they're singing. You see, change is happening. Yep. I'm expecting that we're going to get a motivational speech. He's going to pull out the speech. They're going to be like down at the half, and he's going to pull it out and he's going to read it. I'm expecting they're going to recruit. When Chester gets hurt, we got to go recruit a couple like black players to get him out here. I'm expecting more shots of black and white fans hugging. They're supporting each other, like the security guards out back who are like, hey, little kid, get a Coke. We're going to lift you up on our shoulders at the end for some reason. I was expecting all of these moments to pay off, but thankfully they don't. The only one that kind of got me a little, I was thinking, the fact that Francois' parents all of a sudden are like cool with the housekeeper. Like, hey, we haven't even driven you home at midnight. We don't care, but hey, yeah, you're cool. Come sit with us.
These fucking dongs didn't even get her a ticket. Francois got her the ticket. They're like, what? But there's 4 tickets. And they all look back and she's like,
yeah.
I was really hoping she'd be like, nah, I don't want to hang out with you chuckle fucks on my day off. Like, get fucked. I'm going to the liquor store and watching it with my friends.
I have expected the dad to try to get that for like a friend. And then Francois would have to be like, no, just for her. She is, part of whatever. But a major plot problem here is that the movie's called Invictus, right?
Yeah.
And it's based on the poem. Apparently, the actual poem that Mandela gave was Theodore Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena. That was the speech that he gave him. So
totally
there is
different.
some...
So not even the same poem.
Not even the same poem, but you can't call the movie, I guess, Man in the Arena. That
yeah, you can. That sounds good.
Oh, it sounds like some kind of like martial arts. It's like some MMA film.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, in the end, it's not a very happy, complete ending, but they do make some inroads.
You mentioned the kid that they lift up and stuff. Did you think that motherfucker had a bomb?
There was a split second.
For a second.
There was a split second where I thought he was going to be the one, but then he's obviously trying to sneak in. But instead, they all like throw him up on their shoulders like he was a player.
If I was a security guard, and this has nothing to do with race or anything like that, if there's a small child and he's hanging around my car and he's got a bag, and he's fiddling around in it, I'm not hanging around.
No, you got the president, like 50 feet away. Right. What is it? Because I was just in London, and everywhere it says "see something, say something."
Yeah.
Question that kid. What's in your bag, buddy? What's in your bag?
Did you know that's why there aren't trash cans, like in the UK?
Oh, it makes sense.
Like on the street?
Yeah, it's very smart.
Yeah. Hide stuff in there. Well, just before the final match, Mandela's security detail receives a scare when a jetliner flies in low over the stadium. Instead of being an assassination attempt, the jet displays the message, "Good luck, Bake," painted on the undersides of the plane's wings. After the Springboks beat the All Blacks in extra time, Mandela and Francois meet on the field to celebrate the improbable victory. And as Mandela watches South Africans celebrating together in the street from his car, his voice is heard reciting Invictus again. There's this thing that happens in film all the time. It happened in Tombstone to good effect, but it's happened in lots of other movies. And it definitely happened here in Invictus. Filmmakers, they hear a story and they're like, that's an interesting story. That would make a great movie. Then they go to make the movie and they insist on embellishing to make things exciting. I don't get it. If it was an exciting enough story to tell, just tell the fucking story. You've got Rugby World Cup.
Yeah.
Home turf. International powerhouse. Nelson Mandela. South Africa coming out of apartheid. And yeah, a jet really did fly low over the stadium, but that's spicy enough. The jet is spicy enough. Wow, that's pretty cool, that jet scene. Do it. But instead, they make up this whole like rogue pilot Pierce Brosnan assassination scare storyline that makes absolutely no sense. By the way, if you haven't seen the movie, the guy kind of looks like Pierce Brosnan. We know the World Cup wasn't disrupted by a kamikaze pilot. There was no plane that fucking crashed into the stadium. So there is no suspense in this moment. I'm watching the movie. I'm like, okay, he's clearly not going to crash into the stadium. So why do we fucking care?
Well, I thought he could have been like towing some kind of like provocative like banner. I thought it was going to be something that would embarrass Mandela, or I didn't know. But dude, yes, this was not like they made it sound like, like some secret covert mission that no one knew about.
No.
The airline knew about it. The Rugby Association knew about it. But this shit was dangerous, Gene. This was first of all, they had to delay the plane 4 minutes because the New Zealand team was still doing their chant. And they didn't want to be disrespectful and fly over at that moment and drown them out. They practiced like 5 runs with smaller planes. Then they had a tailwind, busted out that giant jumbo jet, 747. They're not supposed to fly that slow. Downtown, over buildings, that shit was dangerous. And your question, why would you do this? Why would you embellish the story? And the actual pilot, a gentleman named Laurie Kay, he questioned Eastwood when they were making the film. And he said, why did you do that line where he says, let the record show I take control of this aircraft? And Eastwood said, that's Hollywood. Like that's exactly why they did it, because it's Hollywood.
Fuck, not just the line. Why did you have scenes of him like creeping around the stadium and like sunglasses and a leather jacket? He looked like Carmen Sandiego character.
Well, you gotta really, really drive home the danger.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous time.
Yeah. And then prior to the game, we also get the Haka. Okay. And as soon as I heard Haka in this movie, I was on red alert, because if you've been living in a cave, the Haka is the Maori war dance that the All Blacks do before a rugby match. I think everybody knows about it. And like, dude, since the late 2000s, that shit's been everywhere. There's like high school football teams in Gilbert, Arizona doing the Haka. And I was fully prepared for Invictus to waste like a good 2 fucking minutes with a fully choreographed, maybe slow motion Haka scene. Some grandiose performance, but they actually kept it pretty chill. Like, kudos to Clint Eastwood for keeping it pretty chill. We didn't get the part where the dudes like stick out their tongues and go all bug-eyed like the They didn't do any of that. It was just a pretty chill Haka. Good job.
Dude, why the fuck they let them do that? I thought, just listen. See, it's a strategy. Yes, I understand it's like cultural. It's something significant to the way they're raised. They do it. But in international competition, Mandela even gets like a briefing where they say most of the teams lose before they've even started the match. It's like Tyson used to say. Mike Tyson used to say he had beaten most of his opponents before they got in the ring. It was part of his thing. I had expected that Matt Damon had come up with some kind of ingenious plan to counteract the mental effect. I thought when they started doing it that they were going to do some South African dance. I thought that they were going to applaud them. I thought there was going to be something they could do to counteract it. And no, they just kind of almost have like a pre-fight, whatever. But dude, don't let them do that. Don't show me up. Keep your cultural shit off the field. Don't try to intimidate me. That's what happened.
You know, when AI gets fully developed, I'm going to write it and say, replace that scene in Invictus with the Springboks doing the Shakira's Waka Waka dance from the World Cup, Soccer World Cup. I think that'd be absolutely fantastic. I mean, they got to let him do it, right? Because if you don't let him do it, then it looks like you're scared.
No, I was thinking this was going to be like Set It Off. Like we were going to have some kind of dance
off? Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be some cultural
I think the best
South
thing you
African
can do
thing.
if somebody's doing a Haka, though, is you just laugh at them.
Or you just applaud them. Like, hey, that's beautiful. Great job, guys.
Great
Thank
Haka.
you. Woo, great Haka. Great Haka.
Haka versus Waka Waka. I think it works. But anyway, so we get to the victory. The Haka doesn't work, even though Nelson Mandela says it's a very powerful weapon.
Very powerful.
Very powerful. So we get to the victory, and immediately the movie kicks into slow motion. Springboks win and slow motion. And I understand it's a sports movie. What is a sports movie without slow motion? That final punch, bah! The final shot, boom, catching that touchdown, the puck going in the net. I get it. You use slow-mo on the winning play. That's fine. It's a movie. It's okay. But, and you can even go a step further and have the crowd reacting. That's okay too.
Yeah.
Okay? Winning play. Clint Eastwood, he went fucking full send on this one. The crowd in the stadium, slow-mo. They cut to family watching in living room on TV. Family, slow-mo. Liquor store, everybody in the liquor store, slow-mo. They go out into the street. People outside the liquor store, slow-mo. Cops, slow-mo. Kid on their shoulders, slow-mo. Just stop, man. We get it. Like, they fucking won.
Dude, again, I thought this was a technical issue. This, I thought, was almost like the subtitles in The Holy Grail.
Yeah.
I watched this again. Don't judge me. Don't whatever. On the Plex server. And I had just watched our next film was Return of the Ninja. And I had to adjust the subtitles to get them to line up. So I had to adjust the speed. I thought I had accidentally adjusted the speed of the film. This isn't just a moment of slow-mo. This is like the second half of a football game in slow-mo. It is the most anticlimactic, drawn-out ending, and it should have been exciting. Everything is slow-mo, Gene, like you said. They're cheering. They're celebrating. Mandela is celebrating. The South African fans are celebrating. And I'm thinking, shit, this is the end of the road. Cinderella's lost. We're going to fade to some kind of like transition title card. And it's going to be like, as they fought valiantly, they could not overcome the New Zealand team. And in the future years, they would win World Cups in 2023. No, that's not what it is. It's just a jumble of cuts of people in and out of the game. They're celebrating. They're standing. There's a scrum. At the end, we should have been like, we won. It's the big shot. Instead, I'm like, did we win? What? They're looking at the watch. What's happening? Give us some context. And the slow-mo, it just killed any kind of motivation or any kind of like climax. It was just like a wet fart.
Now, Tuna Finger, great name, by the way, in the chat is saying extend the runtime with slow-mo. Here's the thing, though. This movie is like 2 hours and 15 minutes long. You don't need to extend shit. Like, we've covered enough. In fact, you know what? They should be doing all of the rugby scenes in like Benny Hill style fast forward.
It's things that don't make sense in slow-mo. The clock in slow-mo. The fans in slow-mo. People picking up the boy in slow-mo. Like people talking in slow-mo. No, you do the action in slow-mo.
Right.
It was a bit much. You gotta win this. It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood, Gene.
All right. So before we do this, I'm gonna put up a poll here because I'd actually like to know this. Another first. We're gonna find out how many wipes the crowd, the audience, would give this movie. So how many wipes for Invictus? And for those of you who don't recall, 5 wipes or 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It is when you win the Rugby World Cup while hosting the Rugby World Cup. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a movie. It's when your bodyguard asks about your family. So we're going to say 0 wipes, 1 wipe, 2 wipes, 3 wipes, 4 wipes. I don't think any of you are going to be at 5 wipes, so we're just going to leave it there. And we'll start the poll at, let's do a 3-minute poll here. So you guys can let us know what you think.
Am I eligible to vote? Am I eligible to vote?
Yes, you absolutely are. HOS Bread Fan says, I've never seen it and just tuned in, but I'm ready to rate it. I love the confidence there. All right. So
great.
So anyway, I will go first. Invictus was, and I want to actually preface this by saying that Chris at no point said this is his favorite movie. It's not like other movies that have been commissioned where the commissioner said, hey, I love this movie. It's really, really great. You guys should check it out. I basically gave him a choice. These are your rugby movies you could choose from. He went with Invictus because it features considerably more rugby than Alive does, which I think is just rugby adjacent. So anyway, that being said, Invictus was everything I feared it would be. It was afraid to dig deep into the apartheid angle of South Africa. We didn't get to really see a ton of that. It was overly simplified. It was cheesy. And it was laden with forced drama. There was real drama that they weren't willing to get into, but then they manufactured drama for no reason. I admittedly did feel some things, okay? So I don't want to say this movie was totally ineffective. There's a scene where Chester's playing with the kids. Chester's the black player on the team, right? I felt something there. I got teary-eyed. When Henny one of the players gives Mandela a hat, I had tears in my eyes, right? But those few moments were overshadowed by how much the movie dumbed down the material. And I maintain my initial argument, my initial complaint from the beginning of this podcast, which is I really wish they'd used a South African cast. I did not appreciate the fact that Matt Damon and Morgan Freeman were somehow thrust into this film, not being South African. So for me, it's 4.25 wipes.
You're a monster.
I
You can't do that. Listen, every film has its place, right? This was well intentioned. Yes, it was not perfect. It was not the hard hitting biopic, but I think it's 2 wipes. It's better than average. The performances are good. Yes, it leaves a lot out. You end up questioning, why wasn't the team upset that there's a picture of Chester on the side of the team plane? What about the rest of the plane? Where's the animosity? Where's the struggle? But that's not what this was, Gene. This was a feel-good attempt to get an Oscar. It got 2 nominations, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor. It was a competently created, well-acted, well-funded, well-promoted. It's 2 wipes. It can't be any worse than that.
Okay, so I'm coming in at 4.25. You're coming in at 2. I hear you. Well-intentioned. I get all of that. Mm-hmm. Looking at the poll here, we've got I'm alone in the 4-wipe category. Most people, 71%, felt that it was a 2-wiper. So now here comes the question. Currently, as it stands, it would be 3.125 wipes, the average between you and me. Do we add in, because this is live and it's a special one, do we add in the 2-wipe crowd score?
I think yes. I think it's a motivation to tune in, make your voice heard.
All right. In that case,
I think so.
Okay. So in that case, let's see. So that would be
it's a special occasion.
All right. That elevates us from 3.1 to 5. HOS Bread fan says, "Don't listen to us clowns."
No.
Southwick says, "Oh dang, so much audience power," and Malice says, "Hell yes."
Yes.
So. All right, so that takes us from 3.125 to 2.75 wipes.
Yes, that's perfect.
For
It's
Invictus.
reasonable. Yeah, that's reasonable, Gene. That is very, very reasonable. That now ties this in the 249 spot with Kingpin. Oh, sorry. That now ties this in the 249 spot with Kingpin, Robot Jocks, Notting Hill, and Rad. Slightly better than Big and License to Drive, slightly worse than Cabin Boy and Short Circuit.
This is the Rad of rugby movies.
This is the Rad. Yes, this is the rugby of like robot fighting to the death in the post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
This is
perfect.
Yes.
The interactive system works.
It works. But Gene, before we go, I know we're going to go into here towards the end. One thing that just popped into my head here. How did no one think of the strategy of tackling Lumos before our buddy Francois thought of it in the final movie, final scene?
Who the fuck is Lumos?
Lumos was the gigantic Samoan, like the New Zealand guy who they made to seem like he was the Terminator. And then he has this breakthrough with 5 minutes left. Everybody tackle him. We'll be there.
No. That's not what he said. He said, if you can get a hand on him, hold on, everyone else will be there.
Why was that not the plan from the outset?
Because previously, I think people were trying to they were trying to tackle him one-on-one and get the full tackle, or they were trying to group tackle him, in which case it left other people open. But I think it was Lomu, not Lumos. Lumos is like a spell in Harry Potter.
Has something to do with lights.
Lomu, yeah, Chris confirmed. Lomu is a specimen. No one could tackle him.
Okay.
And Art Castro says he sure was.
Yeah, he was.
looked good.
He
real
did.
good. HOS Bread fan, thank you for the sub. All right. So, Big D, we are now in hour 8. We've got some email and voicemail. Should we get to that? Or email? Should we get to that or save it for the next episode?
Hell no, let's do it.
All right, y'all. You're gonna get to
I'm 2 drinks in. Let's keep going.
All right, let's keep the party rolling. So, guys, we do have to close this one out soon because we have to start on our recording of Revenge of the Ninja, which will be a regular recording. It won't be a special recording like this one. It won't be live. But thank you guys so much for Sapper says Lumos is the spell to light the end of Warren. Like
I thought so.
Like
I thought so.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've got a couple. The first one actually comes from our commissioner from our release that came out today, which is Return of the Living Dead. It was Kevin. And Kevin says, "Hey guys, I just finished listening to a review. I'm so happy you guys love the movie I picked. I was worried you wouldn't like it. Big D, you should give the Return of the Living Dead 2 and 3 a chance. I haven't seen the sequels beyond 3, but I do remember enjoying 2, and 3 is really cool. Maybe not as good as the original, but it's worth a watch. Kevin.
I don't know if I believe him. I don't know, because I was shocked at this one. It could only go downhill. But I don't know.
But at the same time, when he commissioned Return of the Living Dead, I don't think any of us expected it to be really good, and it was very, very good. It's got to be better than Invictus.
It's a tough feat. It's definitely better than Return of the Ninja, for sure.
Yeah. Revenge of the Ninja. Don't get it twisted.
Return, whatever it is.
HOS Bread Fan, thanks for joining us. All right, we got one more email, and our Castro just gave away 5 subscriptions to Martin, Sapper, Tuda Finger, Chris, and Southwick. So now I think we're obligated to do. You guys can at least, even if we're not doing a lot of live recordings, you guys can at least watch me play a lot of Final Fantasy 14 online or.
I think we should do this more.
Okay.
I enjoy it. I think the interaction is fun. I think there's less pressure about trying to be professional podcasters. The interaction's great. I like it.
And it lets us bang out those 2000s. There we go. All right. Thank you so much, Arcastro. And Chris is saying, yes, more live reviews. All right. The next one comes from Vincent, who says, he says, hi, Shat crew. Been listening since COVID, all the way over from England. I love the way that you are so true to yourself, even though I might not agree. I mean, Gene's 3 wipes for the Holy Grail.
We are recording.
Glad Ash is back, because I feel there's a lot better balance with all of you. Hopefully one day I'll be able to commission an episode, maybe Dead Man's Shoes, if we're doing some 2000s movies, which might turn you on to the genius that is Shane Meadows. Keep up the great work. That comes from Vincent. So Dead Man, this is not the first time that Dead Man's Shoes has come up on the podcast. There have been several people asking for it. It certainly is in the 2000s, so there is that kind of restriction on there. But, if there's public outcry enough, it might be something to get to. But Vincent, regardless of all that, thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you for listening for all these years. And I apologize for my score on Holy Grail. I just didn't think it was that great.
And again, don't ever feel bad if you can't commission. That's not why we do this. It's not why we ask for bits and cheers and support to keep us going. The best thing you can do is find someone you know who likes 80s and 90s movies. Share the podcast with them. That's all we want, is to expand the Shat family, to get more people who share our love for these films together. And, if you can one day, you can. If not, we have some great ones, Gene, that we just got. Superman 2, Haunted Honeymoon. We got Street Fighter, The Matrix Reloaded, Star Trek First Contact, and Running Man.
Wow.
Which are new in the shoot here. So they'll be coming up soon.
Yeah. And Scott's recording of Wildcats will be coming up soon as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I apologize. I'm so rusty at this, Arcastro, that you nearly started a hype train. I was not even watching it. I was reading our closing notes and listening to Big D, and I missed it. But next time, I'll definitely call out the hype train, and basically when we unleash a hype train with a lot of people doing cheers and subscriptions together, we can unlock new emotes.
Ooh.
It's very exciting if you like emotes. But for those of you who are subscribers now, you do get some special features and unlock some special emotes. So thanks so much for your generosity, Arcastro. Dirty Draws, thanks for joining us. All right, gang. So here's the deal. So we're going to go ahead and close out this episode. And this will be available on YouTube if you missed any part of it. And then also...
you going to do the normal ending?
As well? Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
But we will be... once we're done recording this one, we're going to close out this live stream, and then we're going to retire into our chambers to do Revenge of the Ninja. But we really, really appreciate you spending your time with us. Sorry if you missed the presidential debates, but they'll probably be on YouTube as well. So, or just read about them in the newspaper like I do, because I'm an old person. All right. Let's land this plane. Thank you, Sapper. Says have a great weekend. And Southwick, thank you for your kind words as well. Chris, thank you so much for your commission. I guess not even a commission, but just for your generosity in general. And
thanks for spending an hour with us.
Yeah, right? It's so
seriously.
Cool. So cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do a better job of promoting this next time too, for those of you who weren't able to attend. All right, Big D. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
You gonna do next week, or we're gonna
Yeah.
Okay.
So Big D, What do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, a Japanese gallery owner denies his violent ninja heritage until American drug traffickers kidnap his young son. Commissioned by Jason M., came out in 1983. It's about time we get some ninjas.
Hell yes. Hell yes. And we'll be doing that tonight, immediately after this podcast. So we're fresh. We're warmed up. You guys got us
fired
really
up.
positive vibes. It's going to be it's going to be a banger. Well, thank you. Sorry. Who was the commissioner for that one?
For that one was Jason M.
Oh, that's right. Well, thank you, Jason, for your upcoming commission. Thank you so much, Chris, for your generosity. Thank you to all the commissioners, Scott, and everybody else who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all that information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. And also, if you want to be a part of the community, we do have a Discord. You can go to shatpod.com/Discord, where we are currently engaged in a hot and heavy mid-season, near all-star break battle of fantasy baseball, where you can just basically see me have a meltdown every morning somewhere around 7 a.m. So please join us there. But we're also doing a fitness challenge right now. There's lots of discussion about film, books, pets, all that stuff. So check out the Discord at shatpod.com/Discord. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D and Ash, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
Ninja, the perfect assassin. The greatest ninja warrior vows to give up killing.
My sword is sealed forever.
But a ninja cannot escape his destiny. It will follow him from the gardens of Japan to the streets of America.
Get those people out of here.
The heroin spilled out.
Damn it!
He's caught in a drug war between the American mafia and the Japanese yakuza.
Are you trying to tell me there's ninjas running around there killing people in the 20th century?
The Black Ninja. A disciple of evil who kills for pleasure. Only a ninja can stop a ninja. Now, high above the streets of Los Angeles, he must fight the killer who was once a friend. Ancient Japanese warfare explodes in America. It's the ultimate martial arts adventure. No one can survive. The Revenge of the Ninja. Revenge of the Ninja, a Golan Globus production from the Cannon Group.